morning. Good morning. How's everybody this morning?
Amazing.
Amazing. Well, this is part 2 of a 3-part series that I'm doing on the construction or destruction of the 3 pillars of prosperity. So the last one will be coming in January, and the last one is awareness and the daily practice and application of spiritual principles. Okay? Today we're going to talk about the law of circulation and flow. Now, the circulation and flow is a really important idea to get your mind wrapped around, because not only does it happen in the world around us, it happens in the physical world, the mental world, the spiritual world, and the emotional world. Everything is circulation and flow. Can you just imagine what would happen if you took in the air and didn't let anything out? What would happen? There'd be a breakdown in the process there, wouldn't there? And how much air can you take in and how much can you give out? Well, you can only give out as much as you take in. You can't give out more than you take in, vice versa. So there's circulation and flow there. And of course, there's a lot of things we really don't pay much attention to that really instill this idea and about how important it is in our life. How about in the circulatory system with the heart? Taking the blood in and then putting it out. Man, if we got a breakdown in that thing, we got trouble, right? Circulation and flow. And also, how about eating? We ingest, we assimilate, and eliminate. And if we have a breakdown in that system, we know about it right away, quick like, don't we? Okay? So, Dr. Holmes in the Science of Mind textbook said something really interesting. He said, when the law of circulation is retarded, stagnation results. So anytime there's a breakdown in that process, we get into stagnation. Nothing happens. So one of the things that we have to look at in our journey, anybody looked in areas that just aren't working, you don't seem to be getting anywhere and you're stuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few people, 1 or 2 anyhow. Right? And you can't figure out why you're stuck, because you feel like you're doing all the right things. Sometimes it's not what we're doing, it's what we're not doing that is part of the issue. So we want to examine that idea today of circulation and flow. In particular, one particular part that's the most important of all. If you get this, the rest comes easier. It's called giving and receiving. Now, it's no accident that we're doing this one today, because this is the season we're getting into where there's a lot of giving and receiving going on, correct?
Yeah.
Has anybody started thinking about what they got to do? They got to get this for that person. They got to do this for that person. They got to do the Christmas shopping and all of that stuff that we put ourselves through. And most of us think that we're being really good givers. And we're going out and doing this for other people. But does anybody ever resent it a little bit? Yeah, we do, don't we, right? And so on one hand, we're being that goodness of giving, and we resent it. And we wonder why sometimes things get bogged down. Okay? Because it is perfect circulation and elimination. You take it in, process it, eliminate it. Just like we're born, come into this life, we journey through, and at the end we pass on to a different experience. Everything's cyclical. So, let's talk about good giving. How many people are good givers here? Okay, I'm going to ask those same people this question after I put this on it. When you give the gift, do you expect somebody to be grateful, appreciative? Do you expect them to at least say thanks? Anybody do that? Yeah. What if they took the gift and they just threw it in the garbage or put it downstairs, and when you come over you never seen it displayed, or they give it to someone else? Has that ever happened to anybody? How do you feel? You feel good?
It's for them.
You see, the problem is, right now we got to get clear. One is not giving when you have all of those other things going around. The gift, in the true sense, is given, and as it leaves the hand, that's it. It doesn't matter what the receiver does or doesn't do, or what they say or don't say, or anything else. To be a good giver, what you give is unconditional giving. No attachments to it whatsoever. Whether it be a gift, whether it be a kind word, or whether it be a deed. I got this real neat techie. He's a young man. Well, according to me he is, but he's from Iran, you know. And he is just the nicest young man. And he does so many things for people, including me, and never asks for anything. Because he said that he was raised by his mother just to learn to be a good giver, and he says the rest doesn't matter. You'll be taken care of. And he said that's what he does. He has no ulterior motive, no attachment to it whatsoever. He gives. And you know, when you're with someone like that, it's kind of like, holy. And they kind of stimulate something, at least in me, that makes me want to give back to him. He's not expecting it. I don't have to. He does that. But I want to. Okay? Because there is no condition to it. If you want circulation and flow of all the good in one's life, the basic way to practice is practice giving, and all giving, no matter what it is, without any attachment. Easy to say, because most of us haven't been giving that way. So we think we're a good giver and wonder why things aren't happening. Basically because we're a good giver, but we're not, because we got that attachment to it. I remember when I was up in Red Deer. There I was, 425, and I'm challenging with my eating disorders, and I got this couple who were great supporters, wonderful people. And there at Christmas, they give me this nice big Christmas gift of this expensive, elite, imported British toffee. Just what I needed. Well, I got to tell you, I had a good time with that one. And it wasn't just 1 year. This happened every year. And I knew it'd come to me for a reason. Because, you see, their giving and their intention was pure, but my receiving was off. How about that? Anybody think they're a better giver than a receiver here? Anybody? Well, that's a lie. Anybody here a poor receiver? Yeah, find it easier to give than receive? Yeah, that's a whole bunch of lies too, you see. That's why we cloak it all. Because of the fact of the matter is, watch this the next time a rainstorm. Anybody own one of those spouts that go into a rain barrel outside? Okay? You cannot take more out of the rain barrel than's in there. And you can only put so much in there and can't hang on to it. Right? Yeah. But if you work with it, the circulation and flow, everything's perfect. Oh, sure, it could be more, but it could be less. It can always be a lot more than what it is, or a lot different. But it is what it is, and it will stay that way until we learn to work with it. That's our biggest challenge, is learning to abstain from the errors like giving with attachment. How about love? There's one of my favorites. Because people always say, I find it easier to love others than to love myself. Yeah. And that's not right. You can't do that. That's an impossible thing. You can do it in your head, but you can't do it in your heart. Because you can only have a feeling one place, that's here, right? And if you're having it here, that's the capacity for you having it, no matter who you're directing it to. You can't have more. So if you want more, give self a little bit more, and accept self as worthy of that. And then one has an abundance of giving that real, true energy of love away. Okay. I had this family in Red Deer. They were fairly well-to-do and pretty top-end gifts they always gave the kids for Christmas. Like, one kid got more than with my entire Christmas budget for my 8 kids were, type of thing, you know. And anyhow, real nice people did this, but something happened to them in the summer and they lost everything. I mean, everything. So there they got Christmas and they got no money to buy gifts. And they were devastated because their children would be expecting it, and how could they do that to their children? You know the story, right? Yeah, all of that. What are we going to do? It's never about what you can't give, folks. Get that out of your head. It's not relevant. Oh, we look at that quite often. It's not. It's always relevant about what you can give and what you can do. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to like it. Doesn't necessarily mean that you don't want it a different way. Doesn't necessarily mean that it isn't going to change. However, this is the way it is right now. And if that's what you got, that's what you could give. They said, well, we ain't got nothing. Wrong. You got your love to give, and when you open up to that idea, see what can flow from it. So we started talking, and they said, hey, maybe you could do Christmas cards, both of you together on a combined project, make them real special for each one of your children and your grandchildren, and give them that for Christmas and put it under the tree. Because that you can do. So they got into it and they did that. And they never told their children or anything, but they come over on Christmas morning and they gave them these gifts, and their children and grandchildren were ecstatic. They just loved what they got. But how could they not? Because it was given from the right place, and B, there was no attachment to the outcome there, because that's one thing they had to work on. Because if you start getting attachments to outcome, you're starting to project about the way you don't want it to happen. I knew it was going to. I was thinking that it was going to happen that way. All right, it happened that way. Anybody do that? Yeah. Quit thinking about that. Thinking about the way you want it to happen. Well, what happens if it doesn't? Oh, well, next. Move on. So we've got to get this idea of circulation and flow down and working with it. And one other topic here is really important, is especially around here, because this center survives and can present the programs based on people's contributions. And I think we got to get clear about contributions in a center or a church or unity or any other group. And we want to look at the concept of tithing as opposed to the law of giving. So put those into historical perspective. Everybody's heard about tithing, 10% and all of that. That was from Levitical law in the Old Testament only. And it was basically a compulsion that the Israelites had to do for their spirituality. It was ordered, and basically it was kind of like a tax. So be real clear, folks. All of that about tithing is all in the Old Testament. It is not in the New Testament at all. Jesus did not teach a law of tithing. Jesus taught a law of giving. He said in Luke 6:37 and 38, "Judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Condemn not, and ye shall not condemn. Forgive, and ye shall be forgiven." And then he said, "Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, shall men give into your bosom. For with the same measure that ye mete withal, it shall be measured unto you again." Jesus taught the law of consciousness, that one always has a choice, though one must live with the effects of their choice. So it's up to us how we want to participate in any aspect of our giving. And again, it's important here because this spiritual community survives based on the contributions of the people there. So when you get to that part of today's program, I invite you to look at it differently. Don't look at it as a tithe. Look at it as a gift. And you're activating the law of giving and receiving. And so, how much should you give? Well, what you do, if you really want to learn and grow, is just get in touch with how much you're comfortable with. Because if you're not comfortable, you can't go anywhere with it, because there's all guilt and all that other kind of stuff. Okay? So you get comfortable and feeling good about what you're given, because God doesn't know zeros. Nobody up there said, "Oh, you can tack a couple of more zeros on that one, it would be better." Nobody doing that. The Spirit only knows the essence behind a gift. So make sure that essence behind that gift is clear. And then, when you're ready, if it's today, you can do it. If not, next time, stretch. Find what you're comfortable with and give just a bit more. That way, it stretches your acceptance of good. Because whatever you're going to give is going to come back one way or another. Okay? So that's how you expand it and practice it here. So that's the idea of tithing and the art of giving. Khalil Gibran in the Prophet said, "You give little when you give of your possessions. It's when you give of yourself that you truly give. Give as in yonder valley that myrtle breathes its fragrance into space." Okay? And then we have to work at being a good receiver. I thought I was a good receiver until I ended up in the hospital and had to receive all the goodness they were giving me. Found out I had a hard time out of it. And the great lesson that I learned out of that, be real clear, folks, if you're going to be a good receiver, you must learn to let go of control. Because, folks, you and I are not smart enough to figure out how it could come to us. I got lots of news stories on that coming up too, just incredible. I'd have never guessed. But it comes to you. But if you're trying to control it, well, I'm going to get it over here, over there, you can forget it. It doesn't work that way. Okay? So we've got to be open and receptive to that idea. And so I'm going to leave you with one last idea, and then I'm going to close with an affirmation, an affirmative treatment that I invite you all to participate. So this one I'm going to leave you to think about. Okay? Are you ready? If you don't like what you're getting, then best look at what you're giving. And so, that one, I'll leave that one with you, no comment. So I will close with this, and I invite you to accept this for yourself as I say this for myself, that there is only one life, and that is God's life, and that is my life right here and right now. I now hold and support myself in a vision of love, life, and light. I know that I am whole, perfect, and complete at all ways and at all times, and that I now experience perfect circulation, assimilation, and elimination in all of my bodily functions and my physical affairs. For this, I give thanks. I now accept that it is so. I know it is so. I let it be so, and so it is.
Yay!